this is my new novel. It's called Mad Woman. The story kicks off basically with her receiving a letter from prison from her mother. And the past comes crashing back in the way that it is wont to do sometimes. But I think the impetus for the book for me, as a writer was actually this. I went out one night after having my daughter. I hadn't been out at all. Like I had been with her for she was probably, like, almost 2. It had been a while, and I went out with some friends, and I realized it was so startling to me. I just realized, like, how I was different suddenly. Like, I the whole night felt surreal because I kept thinking and watching this younger woman who was with us, and I was so taken with her, and she just emanated this energy that I was like, "Oh, I don't have that. I'm different now. I've been changed by becoming, someone's sole caretaker," right? Like, I've been changed by this transformation as we are, and I came home that night and I just started writing, and I thought it was just a short story, and it was about these 2 women who start having a very, like, intense friendship, that kind of drives them both toward madness, and, uh, and I just slapped the title Mad Woman on top of it, and I was like, "That's the energy of whatever it is that I'm writing, is sort of embodying this sense of, like, urgency and madness." And I was still working on my other books at that time, so I just put it away. I stopped thinking about it, but later it came back to me, and then I realized it was a novel, right? It's like, in that amazing way that our brains work, I wasn't ready to write this story at that time, but I was ready when it came back into my mind. I was like, "I'll revise it as a short story," sent it to my agent, and we both pretty much at the same time were like, "This is not a story. This is definitely something more." And then I started forming that, like, story structure around it, and it took time to really see what the real story even was. I wasn't totally privy to that yet, and that's the journey of writing that I love so much, is, like, you might start in one place and think you're going one way, and there's another plan at play. Like, the story will tell you what it's about, and that's what I always hope for that will happen. That's when I'm on the right track, is, like, the book kinda turns around and is like, "Actually, I'm about this, and I'm gonna teach you something." So, I realized I was writing a book about domestic violence, I was writing a book about inherited trauma, I was writing a book about, yeah, what does it mean to live a normal adult life after having been through, a really hellish upbringing? Like, what do you take with you? Well, you take a lot with you. And what does it really look like to live with that? So, yeah, I just I it's like you become aware of those themes though, like, as you're doing it. It's not something I set out to necessarily do. I think I probably thought about the story as, like, just a first person straight linear story at first, and I really believe that to do backstory well, it needs to be prompted and rooted in the present timeline. So, naturally, she's encountering things in her own experience of motherhood and in the day to day that are bringing her back to the past. So it's like we have this present timeline here, but, you know, a memory of her mother is going to sneak in and pull us back down here. And so I was taking these little short trips into the past and coming back up, little blips. And what I realized as I was writing was actually, especially in the Hawaii and San Francisco scenes, I really liked writing about that time of her life, and so they started expanding, and I started thinking of the book as more of a dual timeline, which I do think it is that, because what happens and what I knew that needed to happen, for it to really work, is that both timelines have to have their own internal tension, like their own internal story logic, and I love stories that sort of rush with their own tension and they meet by the end, and that satisfaction as a reader, where in that moment of meeting, there's so much surprise, there's so much reveal, uh there's just so much richness in that, but the way not to make that backstory boring is, like, it has to have its own it has to have its own build. It has to have its own thing you're working towards. So, in that way, it becomes these 2 stories, kinda living together, which was really fun to write. I really loved it. I do a lot of visualizing, so I think I really see most of my work as a visual movie playing in my mind, and part of that is also hearing, so I'm also transcribing that movie, but it is very visual, and I will have images and yeah, it kind of plays. I mean, I purposefully, create space in order to watch the movie. Like, I'll turn on, binaural beats or just classical music and just give myself intentional time to close my eyes and watch the movie of the story and or take a walk and let it play. I think on walks, I mean, this book was walked. I walked this book a lot. I always call it taking the story for a walk because it's usually with that, like, bilateral stimulation of the walking, that brain is really gonna, like, work for you, and, it's not always happening at the keyboard, right? It a lot of times it is, but often it's those moments where more in, like, a meditative state, I might see there's a moment in this book that I finally figured out by the end where she's in the ocean with her father, and they have an exchange, and I knew for a while, I just knew it was a scene with her father, I didn't know what it would be, and it was in this meditation that I saw it unfold, and then I was like, "Oh, that's what goes there." And I just really trust that stuff. I'm like, "Yeah, the story already exists in me, and my only job is to clear the path to bring it through." That's what I believe. I don't believe I'm, like, engineering in this forceful way. It's more like I'm opening a gate and I'm allowing it to come in. So, as long as I'm doing my work to open the gate, then the score takes care of itself.